Anita. I'm from Zimbabwe and I'm currently located in Dubai right now. So I came here to study, but before I came to study, I took a gap year, almost gap 2 years. So during those gap 2 years, I was working full time.
Welcome to Dear Business Coach, the podcast. My name's Elizabeth. Find one thing to move your business forward today with conversations, spotlights, interviews, articles, and free resources. Listen and follow and subscribe on social media, Dear Business Coach pages and groups, Dear Business Coach podcast, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, and don't forget Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, anywhere you listen to podcasts. All it takes sometimes is one little thing to move your business forward today.
It's Mafasitera.
Mafasitera.
Yes.
Anita
So it's a
Mafasitera.
Shona name. I'm originally from Zimbabwe.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Yes.
All right. You know
Yes.
what? And it's so pretty. I'm so I think that we talked last time a little bit, whatever you shared with me
Yes.
was just the tip of the iceberg there. So actually, okay, so let's actually start officially. So Anita Mafasitera.
Yes, perfect.
How are you today?
I'm doing great. And yourself?
Great. Thank you. Welcome to the show. This is the Dear Business Coach podcast, and my name's Elizabeth Walker. We actually have just started this series about women in finance. And
Yes.
so you are part of that series. That's not something that I advertised to you the first day that we met, but
Yes.
that's what's happening.
Okay.
uh, and I actually was fascinated a little bit by your profile because you popped out to me based on some of the content that I was seeing on your page. And then when we met, I didn't realize that a lot of your work has actually started in school, and you've
Yes.
brought some projects with you that budded from your academic experience. So I had no idea. I didn't know that.
Okay.
Your page to me, just by looking at it, at first looked like you've been doing this for a long time. So that actually says to me that, yeah, there's a good possibility that you actually have been studying finance for a long time. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
Okay. So my name is Anita. I'm from Zimbabwe and I'm currently located in Dubai right now. So I came here to study, but before I came to study, I took a gap year, almost gap 2 years. So during those gap 2 years, I was working full time as an accounts clerk. And I think that's where my love for finance sort of grew. So I decided to come to school, major in accounting initially, actually. But then as I finished my first semester, I had a very good professor who pitched the idea, why don't you switch to a double major in accounting and finance? I used to think that they're basically the same thing. But then when you major in both accounting and finance, you discover that it's very different. With accounting, it's more numbers driven, and with finance, it's more of an integration of technicality and people. So I did that. Then in my first end of first year, I did an internship, which was not at all related to finance. It was more in customer service, more of sales as a student ambassador. Then after that, I got an internship that was in finance as a financial accounting intern. So alongside my studies, I was doing a full-time internship. So I was working 9 to 6, was doing a full load of courses. I had 4 courses, full-time in school, full-time internship. And then I actually graduated in November, but I finished my classes in August. And from then I was then promoted to a full-time job as a junior financial accountant. So I've just been doing that.
Update. Now you can get 10 free email issues when you sign up for email at dearbusinesscoachpodcast.com. Discount codes, early access, exclusive content, the magazine, and access to the VIP page. Dearbusinesscoachpodcast.com. I bet I bet you had a few offers, more than a few.
Yes.
Yeah, right. I was right about that. Wow.
Yes.
You know what? So funny. I have a concentration in finance that is not majoring in finance.
Yes.
So I have a little vocabulary is kind of what I have. You also said something really interesting about how your internship was not relate one of your internships was not related to finance. You said customer service and sales. And what an interesting time right there in the middle to have that experience. So I also have a background in sales, yet academically my concentration is in finance.
Finance.
And so it's funny to talk to somebody who has maybe almost had exactly the opposite experience, right? So, like, a lot of my
Yes.
time is in sales, and I have a little bit of experience in financial classes.
Yes.
So, the reason why that might be helpful to share is because I see a lot of overlap, and I'm wondering maybe, what when you went into customer service and sales, this is going to sound like a funny question. Did
Yes.
you come back to your accounting and your full-time job and your full-time academics with any kind of different perspective, or were you kind of thinking, whew, that's enough of that?
It's actually funny that you mentioned that because I think through my sales experience, I also realized a lot about myself that as much as I love the structure of finance, I love the structure of accounting, I would want to merge it with something that can help have me in a client facing role. So through that experience, I've actually realized that long term, I'd want to go into something that's more like wealth management or financial consulting, something that I can use my people skills and my finance skills.
Yes. Okay. So one of my notes here is to jump into a topic that you're interested in, financial decision making for young girls.
Yes.
So I'm kind of going backwards here from what I intended to with some of my questions, but nobody will know.
Okay.
What can I ask you about financial decision making for young girls? My first question is, what is young? How young can we start talking about finances for girls, and what's a good place to start?
I think right from in the point you're a teenager, because a lot of the mistakes that come up when you get older, you think, oh, I only need to learn that once I leave my parents' house. But then, for example, I'm an international student. I was an international student. I hadn't lived away from home before. So when you're very sheltered, you don't have that much of financial independence. You go out into the world, you suddenly have all this money with you, and before you know it, you're just splurging. You're struggling to pay your rent because you've not budgeted well for the month. You're prioritizing things like going for concerts instead of saving that money, instead of using it for your essentials. So I think right from the point when you're about 13, 14, you need to start learning about financial literacy.
Oh, well, yeah. Now, I actually also have read and listened to all kinds of financial, maybe talk hosts and folks who have written books on this topic about adding your teenager to your credit card and starting with a checking account as soon as possible, basic check account balancing and saving. Um, and I think there's a balance there between here, you do this, it's a task, and this is yours for you to learn how to manage on your own. And
Yes.
so, as a mother, when do I need to be hands on and when do I need to be hands off?
I think when you're still like very young, between maybe 13 and 18, you need to be very hands-on. Then
Mm.
once they've left the house, then you sort of need to let go, let them figure it out themselves. Because also sometimes in life, you need to learn from your mistakes. I learned the very hard way when I had spent blown all of my rent money, and I'm starting to think, how am I going to pay rent this month? Obviously can't ask your parents for more money because they've already allotted that certain amount to you. So I think once you've left the nest, then you have to be hands off.
Mm, that's really difficult. That that is, I think about uh my child going to college, and I think that's when she's going to need the most help from me. So that's about to happen very soon for me. Next year. That'll be exactly the position I'm in. So I'm really concerned about, yeah, not being able to be hands off. And what are you sure? Totally hands off?
No, because I think experience is the best teacher. You make terrible decisions, but then it'll teach you in future to never do it again. It hurts in the moment, but I think you need to let them make their own mistakes so that they can learn from it. Very painful lessons from it, but it needs to happen.
Okay, and I was about to say, we'll share a painful experience. Well, you've already
Yes,
said 2 or 3 times you spent all of your rent money. I've certainly been in this situation before where I planned for rent and then realized what you, and not that I didn't have an emergency fund, but that I have food needs. I'll do something
yes,
silly like tell myself I'm going to go on a diet, and I'm on a diet anyway. So I'm not going to need X, Y, and Z because I'll figure it out. And then
yes,
something happens where something changes and you do need a cushion for just basic food and gas. And so that's really difficult. And immediately when you said I spent all my rent money and I learned the hard way, I thought, so you have a plan. I mean, this is what happens, right? You are
yes,
extremely smart and obviously very detail oriented. And if anybody has a plan, you do.
yes.
So
But
it's not so
sometimes the
human nature, right? So not,
yes,
it's not that you shouldn't make a mistake or anything like that. What do you think happened for you? What happened? How did you spend all your rent money?
I think when you're young, when you're in uni, simple things like not cooking, ordering takeout a lot, simple things like going shopping for clothes, going for concerts, not prioritizing what needs to be prioritized,
Mm. Okay,
especially
so
with,
I yeah, and I just I feel for you because um you can't just tell yourself you're going to go without either. So do you
yeah,
find ways to what make your priorities work and have a healthy, balanced life on a student budget? Is that possible?
I think it needs a lot of planning. So what I actually started was that I had an Excel where I'll track all of my expenses. So basically, as soon as my parents send me any money, I just pay my rent.
Uh-huh.
And then from that, you have an Excel, you're tracking your expenses. For example, if you said, I'm going to spend $200 this month on groceries, you're writing every single time you go grocery shopping, I've spent this, I've spent this, I've spent that. And also having I also opened a savings account after that. So I
So
also
that's what
have,
I was going to say next. There's not really
yes,
room for saving. I was just talking to my sister about this the other day, and in my
yes,
younger life, I was like, that was just not realistic. I was just
yes.
behind on everything all the time. That's another story. And what I just never figured out the savings part. I would do it and I would get to a little emergency fund or something, and then I would need it and I wouldn't be able to replenish it again for a really long time. That was a habit or that was I guess it's a habit, a situation I found myself in. So being able to save, how did you decide, yeah, okay, I'm going to commit to this? And were you able to do that?
So when I opened a savings account, that was also when I started my first internship in uni. So I had a little bit more income coming in. My parents were still supporting me with my rent money. Then I had a bit on the side coming in. So I'll try as much as I could to have 50% of what I would make from my internship in a savings account.
Mm. Oh, that's good.
Yes, yes.
I
That
like
was
that.
why I also went out to made efforts to find an internship just so that I can have that extra income.
Oh,
Yeah.
so this is actually something that I think about a lot is with internships. I think internships are so great. You should definitely take advantage of internships. And this myth around paid versus unpaid and should you not. Talk to me about being able to find a paid internship. And is that all, is that, when should you do that? When should you not do that? Can you speak to that?
Well, with internships, I will say it's really hard to find paid internships. Not everyone is lucky with finding paid internships. But I think probably after your first semester, once you've settled in, you can manage your schedule, you understand how the university works, then you start looking for an internship.
Hmm.
And I found my first internship. It was actually at the student accommodation that I lived at. So I just let them know that I was looking for any part-time work they had, any internships they had. And luckily there was an open position. And in this economy that we're in, I think you just need to put yourself forward, let people know you're looking for something, connect with people on LinkedIn, check on Indeed, all of those online application forums, and just talk to people, let them know you're looking for something.
Okay, excellent. Now, I love LinkedIn and I use it for networking. That's how you and I got connected. And I
Yes,
did not use LinkedIn when I was in school. I'm sure it was around, but I don't remember getting interested or thinking that I could be on LinkedIn.
yes.
Right now, this was 20 years ago, literally, but that's not for long, that's not long enough ago to be completely out of the loop. I just don't think I thought about it. And I now I at least as a podcaster, I'm looking for you on LinkedIn. You're on LinkedIn right now. And when did you get on LinkedIn as a student?
I first joined LinkedIn in 2022, but I wasn't active on LinkedIn. I only became very active, I think 2023. That's when I started becoming active because some of the professors at our university had been encouraging us get on LinkedIn, connect with people, start those conversations with people. So I really became active 2023. That's when I started taking it seriously.
Now, when you say started taking it seriously, what was that for you? What were like one or two things that you were doing when that you said to yourself, I need to take this seriously? And then what did you start doing?
Well, I started connecting with people in the field that I wanted to work in. And then I also started reaching out to industry leaders on LinkedIn, private messaging them, asking them for any tips they have for students and how I'll be able to transition from campus to corporate, asking for Zoom chats, asking for coffee chats. Obviously, a lot of people didn't reply, but there were a few that were interested with talking to students. So that's how I started taking it more seriously. I also started posting a bit. And then this year, I think, is the year that I've posted the most on my LinkedIn.
Wow. You said you're asking people for meetings, and I'm wondering, are you like this? Like we're having a Zoom meeting right now, and you would just ask someone to come meet with you over Zoom or a virtual chat?
Yes, and just ask for advice on how to start a career, what I should take more seriously if I want to work in finance.
That is, I do you have these recorded?
I have I have like messages.
That's
Yes,
amazing. That's amazing. I'm curious to know how many folks do that. That's I commend you. You know, okay, let's see. Let me look at my notes because you got me thinking about something. I don't want to run out of time either. So, okay, so
okay,
this all started with financial decision making for young girls. And if you can't
yes,
tell, I am really a little obsessed about what are you doing in the academic world, transitioning to, like you said, the corporate world. And this is
yes,
something that leaders are interested in. So let's take a second for me to say that again. Corporate
okay,
leaders are interested in you. And
yes,
so you are, and I don't just mean because you're uh, new talent and less expensive than than older talent. That's not what I mean.
yes,
What I mean is you have a perspective and experience in your daily life right now that
yes,
I'll say myself included, I don't understand all the way. And I'll just for example, I'll make a silly joke right here. I was having dinner with my teenage child and I said, "Guess what? Uh, things are going to get really exciting for me in the podcast world. The podcasts have just been added as a category to the Golden Globes." And this
yes.
is news that just happened this week recently. And she said, "Oh, oh." And the Golden Globes are. So there are people like me sitting around thinking about things about our businesses and our processes, thinking, what can I do next that would be exciting for this project? And guess what? I have no data from folks who are actually in the real world. So so executives and corporate folks are uh, I wouldn't say struggling, but it's not easy for older generations to even ask you the right questions. How do I extract your experience and your value? Because you have so much to offer just from where you are academically. Being involved with a university means that you have your hands on the latest tools, what the best software is. I mean, just everything. So
Yes.
so let's say okay, let me just switch gears here, because you told me about a club that you were involved in called She
Yes.
Ventures. So
Yeah.
what is She Ventures?
So She Ventures is basically a women empowerment club, I would say. So we have events, a plethora of events, from social events to professional events. So we're basically trying to help girls find internships. We're trying to connect them with industry leaders, and we're trying to help smooth the transition from campus to corporate.
Now,
Yes.
what is that? What do you think is the hardest part? I mean, I'm sure everybody's different. Maybe what do you think is the hardest part of switching from campus to corporate?
Well, I'll speak from my own experience. What you learn in uni is very textbook coded. But when you get to corporate, yes, your skills matter, what you know does matter. But the toughest part for me was probably the confidence aspect of it.
Hmm.
Because when you get there, you want to show that there's a reason why you hired me. I know what I'm doing. But at the same time, you're often scared to ask, okay, how do I do this? How do I do that? Because you're trying to find a balance between, is this being inquisitive or is this just showing that I don't know what I'm doing? And also, the most important thing is relationships in corporate. There's a lot of office politics, there's a lot to navigate there. So, that is also quite a difficult thing to transition from. Uni, everything is simple, but once you get to corporate, there's a lot of politics that is involved that you don't realize that is so important in part of the office culture.
Yeah.
So I think
I,
that
yeah.
is, yeah, that was probably what I struggled with.
So does it work like at a holiday dinner, just stay out of it? Or no?
I what I've done, I don't know if it's the best, is just stay out of it, pretend like you don't see anything, just do your job and clock out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's sound advice. I think that you probably will find your mentors. Have you found some mentors so far?
Yes, I have. So we're working through it.
So, have you gotten any unexpected advice as far as that goes while you're getting to know your way around yourself in that environment?
Um, I think one unexpected advice I was actually told was that it really doesn't matter how many mistakes you make. What just matters is that you own up to it and then you ask how to improve from those mistakes.
Wow. That takes a lot of guts. Have you had to do that?
Yes, I have.
Oh yeah. Well, in accounting, right, and in accounting you can't make a mistake.
Yeah,
In a client facing role, people love it when you say, I don't know, but I'll find out for you.
yeah.
And so so what so maybe in your that's my opinion actually. Let me ask you that. In a financial situation, if you are someone that's I'm looking to you for technical advice, I'm looking to trust your numbers. And
Yes.
so can I ask you to tell me when you make a mistake? How do we start building that rapport?
Sorry, can you repeat your question?
Yeah, so how can we start building that rapport? If you're my if I'm your client, if
Yeah,
you are my project manager, for example, let's say,
yes.
and how can I start building rapport with you to get you to tell me you've made a mistake, to be open with me, to feel comfortable sharing your questions.
I think in that situation, like you said, it also depends on the relationship you have with the client. If I discovered that I'd made a mistake for a client, obviously the first point of contact would be my supervisor to let him know this is what I've done. I saw that this went wrong. How can we fix it? How can we navigate talking to the client? And obviously, if it's a big error, then there's a lot of implications that are tied to that. But then if it's something that can be fixable, then you can then go to the client and let them know, I did this. I spoke to my supervisor about it, and we've decided that we'll fix it this way.
But right. You actually are exactly right. Involve help, and
Yes.
that's a good answer. I That is a good answer. Which means you have to be willing to ask for help. So if you already have a little practice with that, maybe
Yeah.
that makes everybody's life a little bit easier.
Yes.
So what about the idea about teamwork then? Because I know there's a lot of teamwork in, say, when you're in a client facing role, or if you're in sales or customer service, sometimes that's what you do in meetings is team building, even though you go back to your separate ways. But there's a lot of talk about that because you need practice at social rapport building. So, how do
Yeah.
you do that when you're transitioning from campus to corporate? With your experience at with helping young women do that
Yes.
in school, right? How do you think about that when you're not in school anymore and it's just you in the office and you're trying to figure out how how to connect with people?
I think that's a very good question.
Mm.
And like you had mentioned before, when I was doing an internship in sales and it was more of a client facing role, it was easier to connect with people because people talk. But I'm sure if you've encountered people who are working in finance, everyone's pretty serious. Everyone's doing their own thing. No one's really interacting. So I'll admit in the beginning it was a bit of a challenge for me on how to connect with these people. But I think as time went on, we had some team lunches, we had some team dinners, and then slowly I started talking to them and then we started building connections. But then with the job itself, there was not a lot of teamwork involved unless you have a meeting. But other than that, there's not a lot of teamwork involved. It's very individual.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I a friend of mine recently told me that she has right now her circumstances are that she has a new baby at home, a 1 year old, and she is in a situation where she has help right while she is at work. She's a college professor, and so she said, she said, when I go to the office, I
Yeah.
am so heads down. I have no time to talk to anybody, and I'm trying to squeeze all of this work in at the office with part-time help at home. And that got me thinking about the opportunities that I might miss sometimes because I just don't feel like it. And it's not because I can't or so, it's not, it's just, I'm just not in the mood. And I think about, man, this is, think about my friend, she has all of these responsibilities at home. And, when does she have time to do her connection building and her networking because that's a big part of her job. And so I think about I hope that at your age you feel like you have time to do that. And are there little and but maybe you have to trick yourself into feeling like it or building a few minutes into your day around the water cooler or something as they say because uh small talk is hard. Do you have to practice at it?
I would say so right now I'm working, it's 9 to 6. And obviously most of the time a 9 to 6 is not really a 9 to 6. You
Hmm.
wake up probably at 6 a.m. You have to leave for the office. You only get back at like 8 p.m., 9 p.m. So I think in the beginning, the first 2 months, I would get home, sleep, wake up, repeat. And the weekends were the only time I really felt like I had time to do anything. But then recently, I think, like you said, you have to trick your mind into believing that you have time. Because if you don't do that, you find that you're just living for work. Everything is centered around work. You're dreaming about work. When you're sleeping, you're dreaming about work.
Hmm.
So I've just had to trick myself. And I also make sure I use the hour lunch break that I have. So usually, like if I decide I'm posting a lot of content on LinkedIn, I just schedule my posts during that hour break I have during the week. And like you said, sometimes, which is not a very good habit, sometimes you just walk up and down to the water to the water dispenser, pretend like you need to go there, but then you're just slowly thinking, okay, I can do this to connect with people, I can do this to talk to people, or taking bathroom breaks, which is also not a good thing to be doing, but just to buy yourself more time so that you have time to think about things to build your own network.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, yes, you're right. Yeah, I will say I think those are good habits actually. And I used to do exactly the same thing when I worked in a cubicle by
Yes.
necessity, but also that's what happened is you end up passing people in the hallway and then
Yes.
something happens. I mean, even if you just find out that you have the same break schedule as somebody else and it's maybe it's you giggle because you say, "Oh, I see you again. Nice to see you." And
Yes.
you become all of a sudden somebody safe to talk to. That's a good, yeah, that's good. And you have to get up and stretch. Well, that's a really smart thing to do. Yeah, just to think about taking breaks periodically. And then you run into people. And that's a really good strategy. That's good.
Yes.
Okay, so oh my goodness, I've taken you too much past our time. Okay, so one more question, and before I do that, we were talking about LinkedIn, of course, and so that's
Yes.
where I think maybe is a good place to tell people to find you. What is the best way for folks to connect with you?
On LinkedIn.
Okay.
Yes. I'm always on my LinkedIn.
Well, you have said earlier that you like DMs, and that is a good thing to say to people, right? So, can I DM you? Can listeners DM you?
Yes, they can. Just look for me, Anita Mafasitera on LinkedIn.
Okay, so what about upcoming projects? What would you like people to ask you about? What would you like to be invited to collaborate on right now?
So I'm really passionate, if you've noticed from some of my content about on LinkedIn, really passionate about women empowerment. So anything that has to do with that, I would love to collaborate with people on that. And in the new year, I would like to focus more on that as well, start a project of my own. So I would really enjoy if I can collaborate with people on women empowerment focused events.
Now, is that specific to the finance world or not necessarily?
Not necessarily.
So, do you have a couple of subtopics that you would like to throw out there related to women empowerment? Uh, what kinds of collaborations would you like to be invited to other podcasts? Would you like to collaborate on posts? Would you like to speak? I probably don't need to say all of that now. Now you're up for some jobs maybe you don't have time for.
I think my main focus is definitely in finance and anything that's also even social. And I think the work that I've done with women empowerment before has been a mixture of social, professional events. So anything that's catered to that, I'm really interested in.
Okay, great. So I can call you maybe if we want to put an event together.
Yes, definitely. Definitely.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
That's right. That's okay. Now and so basically right. So okay. Anita, thank you so much for coming to the Dear Business Coach podcast today. And so I'm looking at your profile. It's linkedin.com/in/. Anita Mafasitera.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so it's Mafasitera. And
Yes.
Anita is Anita.
Yes.
Well, you know
Thank you
what?
so
I would
much.
love to invite you back. I'm sorry.
Oh, I wanted to say thank you so much for taking your time. And thank you so much for reaching out to me on LinkedIn.
You are welcome. I get excited every time I talk to somebody through DM. It's kind of fun, right? When you ask a stranger, "Hey, would you like to collaborate or come to the show?" And so not you would be surprised maybe if I said I get excited every time, but yeah, I love it. Thank you too. And I'd like to invite you back sometime soon and hear about your next event.
Yes. Thank you so much. I'd love to come back.
Okay, Nita. Well, thank you, and you have a happy holiday.
Same to you. Merry Christmas in advance.
Merry Christmas in advance. Okay, bye for now.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Dear Business Coach podcast. My name is Elizabeth Walker, producer and host of the Dear Business Coach podcast. Music by Stones Mayo. Social media by Meenakshi Bensal. Follow and subscribe now. Thanks so much. You are a superstar.